because
Yeah.
I think we have been conditioned to think that life should be hard, but I honestly don't think it should be hard at all. And it took me a while because, oh Lord, if you only knew. But yeah, the conversation about human design for me is like that's why I love it because it gave me different language. And some
Mhm.
people say, well, aren't you replacing one bad label for a good label? But I'm like, it made me open up to different pieces. It made me open up to different layers of healing that I needed, but I couldn't have gotten there if I did not have human design. I do know
Yeah.
that much.
Well, and going back to what you were saying, life shouldn't be hard. I mean, it's almost like all these things, technology wise, have come into our lives to try to make things easier. But in a lot of ways, I feel like they just complicate things
Yeah.
and almost kind of make things more difficult in some areas.
Yeah.
And this is where I think human design, yeah, can play a role in kind of simplifying some of that.
Because all the technology, when you don't know what works for you and how it feels when something works for you, we get definitely lost in the sea of options and things to do and rituals to follow. But
Yeah.
I think human design gives you discernment to find out quickly, choose, okay, this is for me, that's not for me, and then move on, not feel guilty about it because we're not supposed to do all the things, and stuff like that for people because it truly has changed my life, you guys.
Welcome back to PCOS Unfiltered. Nourish, Heal, Thrive. I'm your host, Lindsie, and today's episode is such a good one. If you've ever felt like you're doing all the right things and still wondering, why does this never seem to work for me? Because here's the truth. A lot of women with PCOS aren't just battling hormones, they're battling conditioning, diet culture, hustle culture, the pressure to start over every January with a shiny new resolution, only to feel frustrated, behind, or burn out a few weeks later. And that's actually the perfect lead in to something I'm really excited about, the Anti Resolution Revolution, happening January 26th through the 31st. This is a free, collaborative, gamified event where you'll receive daily recordings straight to your inbox so you can watch and participate on your own time. No pressure, no life commitments. And the entire goal of this event is to help you finally understand why resolutions fail year after year and what actually needs to change for things to stick. I'll share more about that at the end of the episode, and of course, I'll link everything in the show notes for you. Now, today, I'm joined by Julieta Duvall, a soulful rebel and grounded guide for individuals and families who are dismantling systems that no longer serve them. Julieta is a dedicated mom, entrepreneur, and a seasoned flight attendant of nearly 20 years, living a nomadic lifestyle while helping others reconnect to their own inner rhythm and truth. Julieta uses human design as a practical tool for self-trust, helping people understand their unique blueprint for stress, decision making, energy, rest, and alignment. And in this conversation, we explore how human design can be a powerful companion on a PCOS healing journey, especially when stress, nervous system dysregulation, people pleasing, and overcommitting are part of the picture. We talk about the basics, your type, strategy, and authority, plus how to recognize when you're in alignment versus when you're living in chronic frustration, resentment, or burnout. We also go into how your environment, sleep routines, and even relationship dynamics can impact your stress and your health, and how learning your design can help you advocate for yourself more confidently with providers and in your daily life. Just a reminder, the content shared here on PCOS Unfiltered is for informational and educational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the host and guests are not intended to serve as medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, exercise, or treatment plan. The information shared is based on personal experience and expert interviews and is not a substitute for professional medical guidance. As always, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and use this episode as an invitation to get curious about what your body has been trying to tell you all along. All right, let's dive in. So welcome, Julieta. Oh my gosh, I learned about human design. It's been probably a year, over a year ago from my sister-in-law. And so I've just kind of skimmed the surface with human design. So I'm super excited for this so we can dive in a little bit deeper and, of course, apply it to PCOS and women's health in
Yes.
general. I think this is going to be a great one for all of that stuff. So let's just kind of start from the beginning. What is human
Oh my
design?
gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I learned about human design back in 2021, but essentially what it is, it people see it as a science of differentiation, and it blends a couple of ancient systems. So it blends astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the chakra system, and the Kabbalah tree. And then it also blends quantum mechanics and some microbiochemistry and genetics. Now, that is not something that I have always looked at because I came into human design from from the spiritual part of it per se. But essentially, it kind of lets you see your blueprint, what you are here to do and how life works for you from within. Because we do have a lot of systems that tell us what works for us, but they don't always actually work for you. So I feel like there's always a struggle between finding what works for you from within and what other people are telling us to do. And
Mhm.
that's why I fell in love with it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's where that kind of conditioning piece kind of plays a role in that, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. It is the conditioning that runs through our system and through our bodies. It's like massive. And I think so I learned it in 2021 when I was starting to transition into home education because I didn't really know how to be this parent that, they say like, hold space for your children, do self-directed education, follow their leads. But I'm like, how am I supposed to do that if I'm always being triggered, if I was upset or whatever? And I'm like, how is that supposed to work? And then human design came into my life and it really changed it. It had a kinder language to what some of the things that people would see as wrong per se, and it just kind of gave me an opening into something different that felt so much more empowering. And I think that's why I fell in love with it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean it's great in helping understand other people better.
Yeah,
Yes, understand yourself, but I think understand other people better and be able to work with them and respond to them a little bit better as well, right?
exactly. Because
Yeah.
if you know yourself, there once you know yourself, you will be this like radiation of just happiness and fulfillment. And
Hmm.
you really can't help but to affect other people by just being in your energy when you're like in full alignment, your body and your mind. And I think that's why I was so drawn to your work too, because I've been working with the spiritual aspect of it, but
Yeah.
I was kind of bypassing the body per se because, and I get chills as I'm saying this because the body was like, girl, you cannot be feeling and doing all of this if you do not work with what you're feeling, like the symptoms, right?
Hmm.
Um, I had an adrenal condition from where I was when I was really, really young. It's called hyperhidrosis, which is excessive sweat of the hands sometimes.
Hmm.
It has kind of slowed down at a little bit after, so many years. But essentially, I think that I was under so much repressing my energy. So I am a manifesting generator in human design, and I had so much energy, and I really think that that did something. I was also feeling a lot of stress from my parents, I think, and I really think that turned my adrenals into like this overdrive of something. So it's a piece that I keep working with it as far as like the body, the nervous system, and connecting all of those pieces together. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a great, yeah, a great example of how human design can help. It kind of also takes us into the next question in that how can human design help with stress?
Oh my
This
goodness.
is one of the things I talk a lot about, on the podcast, but how can it help with stress?
It is so the beginning to human design, and before I'll say anything else, is like it's an experiment, it's an exploration of something, it's a tool. that you have with you whenever you need it or not. So sometimes it resonates and sometimes it doesn't. So take whatever resonates and whatever
Mhm.
feels the most expansive. But when you start with human design, you find out your type, your strategy, and your authority. Those are like the three basic foundations. For type, we have five types. You have projectors, generators, manifestors, reflectors, and manifesting generators. Each one of those has its like a little barometer. If you think of a bowling alley, when you have the lanes, like the rails. So one rail is when you're in alignment, and the other side is when you're not in alignment. And they're very simple feelings. For me, as a manifesting generator, when I am in alignment, I am going to feel peace and satisfaction. When I am not in alignment, I am going to feel frustrated and angry. Simple.
Mhm.
And when you're a projector, you feel resentment when you're not in alignment and success when you're in alignment. So those are very like simple terms once you learn your type to know where you're going with this. And that when you're in perpetual not in alignment, like in perpetual frustration, that will bring your stress levels higher up. So by knowing those key pieces is going to help you. And then the other piece for your authority is how we best make decisions. And that has been a work in progress for me because most of the world we are an emotional authority. So there's emotional, there's sacral authority, there's ego authority. They all have different pieces, and once you find yours, it's something to experiment and to look back into your experiences. So for me, for example, I'm an emotional authority. The way I'm supposed to work, but again, it's just an experiment. It's like when I someone invites me to do something and I'm in the height of the emotion, I'm like, yes, absolutely. And I learned it this hard way actually, because a long time ago, a homeschool mom asked me if I wanted to teach Spanish to her children. And in a matter of 5 minutes, she planned this whole life of us going through like our whole homeschool journey, like teaching Spanish to each other. And I was like, in for about 2 minutes, it might have felt good. I was like, that's so because I was looking for community, right? I wanted someone to go through on this journey together. But after she left, I was like, this does not feel good to me. This does not feel good. And that's an emotional. So you make a decision at the height of your emotions or at the lowest of your emotions. And then the next day, literally, when you wake up, you're like, okay, this is not good. And then sometimes, because we can't back out of it, actually, when I finally said something after a couple of days of, thinking about this, I was like, I don't think I can do this. She stopped talking to me.
Oh.
So it was
Oh.
and back then I didn't know that. So I felt terrible. I
Mhm.
felt like I was doing something wrong, but I was being committed, being pulled into something that was truly not in alignment for me. So, and I feel like this happens a lot for people. So manifestors, they're kind of 8% of the population, so they are not that many, but they are
Mhm.
here to initiate things and their aura is very powerful. But when they are the only ones that are here to initiate things, but the world doesn't like that unless it fits everyone else's you know picture of what you need. So manifestors, when they're not in alignment, they tend to go into people pleasing and they repress their anger when something doesn't work for them. And I feel like you're being constantly pulled into things that do not work for you. And you're just in that cycle. And it's like you're under the wave and you just can't get out of it. So once you start learning your type, how human design says that you operate. And you can experiment with that if it works for you. If it doesn't, if you're a manifestor, you're like, well, I don't really resonate with that, then it's okay. You move on to what works for you. But once you know your authority, how you best make decision, it is the best piece for me to reflect on what has brought both satisfaction and frustration on the other end because it's just a lot. Like, yes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that's a very relatable story. I feel like, we do go through things where we get committed to, we commit
Yes.
ourselves to something and then yeah, you wake up the next day and realize you can't do it. You're going to overstress yourself. And I think that's
Yeah.
important to recognize that because as I have talked about before as well on the podcast, about self-care. Um, and so when you actually, if you take a step back and realize, like, yes, it's going to overdo it for me, I'm overcommitting to whatever it is. And it's okay to be selfish in that sense.
Yeah, and I love that because it's really not people don't see that as good. When you take care
Mhm.
of yourself, because people will say like, do self-care. But what does that
Yeah.
mean? Is it just really going to a spa for like, a couple hours and then going crazy for the next 3 months? I'm like, that
Yeah.
doesn't sound like a good deal to me. But it brings me to the other piece. So you find your type, your strategy, your authority, how you best make decisions, how you feel when you're in alignment and not in alignment, and how you're meant to operate, as your type. But the other piece, so when you get your body graph, that's what it's called, the chart is called a body graph, you will see 9 centers. In human design, we're a 9 center being. And some of those, they're like triangles and a little, squares and circles, and they're going to be illuminated or not. So they're going to be either white or color in. Those are centers. So the very top one, it's going to be your head, and the very bottom one is going to be your root. In human design, that it's called a pressure sandwich. What that means is when they're open or white, if you're looking at the body graph and they're both white, you are going to receive and amplify. And this is so, I cannot tell you how this helpful was for me because my top one is my head and it's inspiration, it's ideas. Lordy, when I am out in the world, I receive everyone's inspiration, everyone's ideas. And what I learned from human design is that they're okay. I just don't have to go after each and every one
Mhm.
of them. And that really saved me a whole bunch of time because I am here trying to initiate things. I'm here trying to do the hustle and bustle, and I am not designed to operate that way. I am designed to be responding to things, a podcast invitation, a invitation to lunch, and for me to say yes or no. Like you can see my movement when I'm excited about something, I'm going to move forward. So we
Yeah.
just kind of like automatically. So when you see that those two shapes, there are other shapes, every shape has a purpose. It all works in different ways, but those two pieces, the pressure sandwich, the bottom one is the root, is about stress. And if we put it into like the body, so your head is your pineal gland, and correct me in the names because I don't say this a lot. And then you have your Ashna, it's going to be your neocortex, your visual
Hmm.
cortex, and your pituitary glands.
Hmm.
Then you have your throat, is going to be your thyroid, and the parathyroid glands. And this
Hmm.
is everything in human design makes its way down to the throat and up into the throat towards manifestation. It's all about speaking, what you want into your life. It's all
Yeah.
about that. And then you have the heart center is going to be your stomach, your thymus gland, the heart and the gallbladder. The gallbladder. The spleen is the lymphatic system. The solar plexus
Hmm.
is the lungs, the kidneys, the pancreas, the prostate gland, and the nervous system. And that's your emotions. In human design, that's attached to how we manage our emotions. And our nervous system just goes into like complete distress. And then you have the sacral center is your ovaries and the testes. The G center is the liver and the blood. So each center is attached to some of the organs that we have in this beautiful body.
Hmm.
So once you find that, you look at what you receive from other people, and then you start to create these practices of deciding whether that's for you or not. My
Yeah.
ideas, they're not all for me. They're for other people. Same thing, I actually give out stress. because I have defined root. So I don't know that I could I don't know how people experience, the stress from other people, but I can say that my kids receive emotions and I give out emotions. And that was one of the pieces that really resonated with me in Human Design because as a homeschool family, I'm with my kids all the time,
Mhm.
24/7. So when I am in a low emotional wave, I don't want to give that to them. So I created practices around that to let them know that my emotions, when they're low, because they are, um, that is not because of them. That is not,
Yeah.
that they are not the cause of that. And that the
Yeah.
same thing with the stress. If you receive stress from other people, if you have a pressure sandwich, it's not yours to take in. It's not yours to
Mhm.
fix. It's not yours. You can feel it for sure because that's a gift that you have. You're feeling how other people have. And I think in the medical field, a lot of nurses actually have that because you can feel that. You can
Mhm.
tell when someone's not feeling well, even without
Yeah.
saying any words.
Yeah.
But it is not for you to take. It is not for
Yeah.
you to, keep it in your body. There is
Mhm.
a way to release that. Oh God, I said a
Yeah.
lot.
That's okay. That was all good stuff. I mean, yeah, once I was introduced to human design myself, I'm like, wow, this makes sense because I can read people
Yeah.
in certain ways. I just feel things like, I mean, I've been at things like with my husband, um like for example, we were at one of his like conference, trade shows, and something had happened where somebody he was talking to got reported for something. And I knew exactly who it was because I was watching interaction. And so sure enough, he
Yes.
did, he had told me what had happened and he found out later who it was. And I knew exactly,
Mm-hmm.
who it was because I could just feel the
Yeah.
energy from
Yeah.
those two people interacting. And I happened to be there to watch it. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's once you really tap into that, I think
Yes.
it's amazing, and going back to what you were saying too, with the specific organs and, and everything. That's where I have discussed a little bit before. I've had other experts on there on the shows, on some episodes, but where trauma and the
Yeah.
emotional, piece plays a role in PCOS,
Yes.
and can play a role in other conditions, as well. Because when we store those emotions, like you were saying,
Yeah.
it's not good for our body. That's stressing our body more.
No,
So,
it really, yeah, it is so beautiful to hear you say that, like once
mhm,
you start observing, and this is why I love the experimentation part of human design. Like you don't have to take my word for it.
mhm,
Like just, kind of slow down on your day and see what happens though. But in the animal kingdom, when the animals are stressed because they have to survive, after that episode is done, they tend to shake off the episode, so they
mhm.
reset themselves.
Yeah.
We, on the other hand, we don't really know how to reset ourselves, so we store all of that,
Mhm.
and all of that kind of goes in there. And I really think that's um what triggered my condition. I think it got triggered when I was like maybe 4 or 5 years old, which, my mom, I mean, she didn't know any better, right? She didn't know, she just knew what she knew. But
Yeah.
I think she took me to the doctor and they're like, well, it just happened. And that was that. And I never really looked into it until I started learning human design. And
Mhm.
there's, I like the gene keys too. It's a piece that could help with the more practical pieces of the gates and stuff like that. So I started looking into that and it kind of made sense a little bit. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just yeah, we're not meant to keep all of it though. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There's no handbook to parenting, right?
Nope. Oh my goodness, no.
So, and that's where, I mean, some of this comes in though, because, it is what it is. Like that's how we were
Yeah.
raised and conditioned, like we talked about in certain ways. But then later on in life, as we grow up and mature and actually come into, our own being,
Yeah.
we start learning these things, in our
Yeah.
own way. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's beautiful because with that, it helped me see my parents from a different perspective. It helped me have compassion for, some of the things that I went through.
Mhm.
And it gave me some information to go through in with my children.
Mhm.
So, because the other piece that you mentioned on episode 2, when other things, you mentioned sleep and movement a lot.
Mhm.
And when you go, out of the 5 types in human design, only 2 of those have sacral energy. So generators and manifesting generators have sacral energy. What that means is like picture a pitcher full of water when you wake up, full of energy, and throughout the day you are drinking that water. So you're utilizing your energy in the most efficient way. It's our dream, but sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to and stuff like that. So it feels a little bit like more of a struggle to drink that water. But at the end of the day, you, as a manifesting generator or a generator, that pitcher of energy should be empty. And that is a lot of the pieces you said when you're like sedentary and you're not moving. If you are a generator type, your energy, it's going to store in there and it's going to accumulate. And it's just,
Mhm.
it has to go somewhere. Either goes outward or it stays in the body, and then the rest of the organs have to like process that in a way. So you'll see
Yeah.
that I have both my kids are generator types. So we'll see an influx of energy right before bedtime. It's like, like the wiggles, and then everybody just like crash.
Yep.
So yeah, but the non-generator types, like the non-sacral types, so you have a projector, a reflector, and a manifester. What they do with their sacral is that they receive energy from people. They receive energy from the world. They're not, it's there for a reason to help them, and it kind of helps them through their process and through their day and stuff. But at the end of the day, a non-sacral type should be able to release all of that, because again, that
Mhm.
energy, it's not yours in a sense. And if it's not the good, juicy one, when someone is in alignment, you've received energy from someone that's frustrated, then it's not going to feel good to you either. So it's releasing that energy. And that goes to, I think it was Cameron Diaz that said that we should sleep alone or something when you're like married and right?
There are, yeah, I don't know if it was her, but but yes, I have heard that before.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that really, it's something that you should experiment, not short. If it feels right, you can experiment with. Try
Mhm.
sleeping alone. We're conditioned to sleep with our partners, like yeah, like when you have a couple. So sleeping alone feels like, but why should you? I'm like, why not? So the non-sacral types, it's more of a flow into sleep. So it's more of a quiet routine, just
Mhm.
like kind of easing to bed, releasing all the energy, and then just kind of getting ready for the next day. But so what it is said in the human design world is that when you sleep with someone that has sacral energy at night, you are constantly taking that in. So it creates a restless cycle for you because you
Mhm.
have energy there that is not yours. So it just doesn't let you, get a full sleep cycle. And then the next morning you're tired. And then
Yeah.
as a non-sacral type, we are conditioned to say we're supposed to do all the time. What is Nike says, just do it. I'm like, no, absolutely not. So it's just all this like little pieces of conditioning that kind of scream at you that we're
Mhm.
supposed to do all these things. And sometimes I feel like human design goes against it or like speaks differently, and it creates a like, should I try that? Is that even possible? And
Yeah.
then you start finding out what works for you, and that really what's the beautiful piece that I love about it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's another great point, great example, of how human design can work. And I talk about a wind down routine actually in my book.
Yeah.
Like for some people, it might involve more, than others. And
Yes.
that's where human design could could play a role. But like what you said about experimenting with that as well, because yeah, again, we're conditioned to just think we have to
Yes.
sleep with our partner. And my husband and I are both manifesting generators. So
Okay.
So I think we do, we usually do fine. He crashes.
Yeah,
Like you were saying, his cup is usually empty at the end of the day, or his pitcher
I
empty
love
at the end of the
that.
day, and he crashes, I crash. Um, but yeah, for others that may not be the best thing for them. And there's still ways, because I think going back to the conditioning piece, it's like some people think that's taking away from the relationship, maybe,
Yes.
but there's still other ways to build that bond and improve the relationship. And that might actually be a way to improve that relationship by sleeping apart from each other. You might actually be stronger in the end.
You absolutely are absolutely true, right
Uh,
in that because that was one of the reasons why I love human design too, because it didn't just help me with my children, the relationship, well, obviously with myself, because I can tell you that I was Tiger Mom homeschool edition. Like I was just a nutcase. And then I just kind of went through this like deconditioning and allowed myself to see different. But a relationship with my husband, it helped me see some things that I used to perceive that's like offensive to me. Like, th he would say, I would go and ask a question, and if he was doing something, I'm okay when people come and ask me a question if I'm doing something. Like, it doesn't
mhm.
bother me, but for him, he's hyper focused into what he's doing.
Yep.
So if he feels interrupted, which I did, I used to, right? He would roll his eyes almost and he would take a deep breath and then I would like put my my fighting gloves on. I'm like, what is your problem? And after learning about human design, we learned that we're both our single definition. The definition is important at some point, but it's not a piece that I don't know that I'm trying to say single definition. It's like we're just independent. That's, other people, they have a split definition, triple
Mhm.
split. And what that means is that there is more energy needed inside your body to like connect the whole thing. So some people do need more to be around more people, like working at a cafe. It's like very helpful for a triple split because then they get energy from other people and it's just things flow better. But for a single definition for us, like us, being independent is like essential.
Yeah.
So learning to navigate that and be okay with it, it releases stress. Like I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I don't have to be worried about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Does you made do you get hyper focused on something too? Like,
It's more my husband.
okay.
Yeah. And so let's say very similar, because then I've
Yeah.
learned, if he's in the middle of something, I'm just like, I'll ask my question when he's done. Because it's more, he just kind of doesn't answer. And then I'm like,
Yes.
why are you ignoring me? Just acknowledge
Yes.
me.
Yes.
But he just needs to
Exactly.
finish what he's doing, and
Yeah.
then I can, interact more with him.
Exactly. And I'm the
Yeah.
same way. I tell my
Mhm.
husband, I'm like, I have a lot in my head. I need to have a sit down conversation about this. And that's
Mhm.
okay, but there's all these like little pieces. You no longer go to bed upset or thinking things that may not even be true.
Yeah.
So we are like swimming in our heads with all these
Yeah.
ideas and they may not even be true. So it
Yeah.
really helped with the communication part
Mhm.
and just kind of seeing how different we are.
Okay, I loved that conversation. And if you're listening thinking, wait, this explains me, you are not alone. One of the biggest things I'm taking away from today is that healing gets lighter when you stop forcing yourself into someone else's framework. Because so many of us, especially women navigating PCOS, have been conditioned to believe we have to do more, push harder, follow the perfect plan, and somehow override our bodies to get results. But what Julieta brought to the table today is such a powerful reminder that your body isn't the problem, it's the messenger. We talked about using human design as an experiment, not a rule book, and how learning your type, strategy, and authority can help you recognize when you're in alignment, when you're overcommitting, and what kinds of decisions or environments quietly raise your stress without you even realizing it. And I love the way she tied it back to nervous system regulation, stored stress, and the reality of what works for one woman with PCOS may not work for another because we're not all built the same. If you want to connect with Julieta to learn more, I'll link everything for you in the show notes. And lastly, let's circle back to the anti-resolution revolution. If you're tired of setting New Year's resolutions that don't last, if you've ever felt like you are the problem because motivation fades or life gets in the way, this event is for you. From January 26th through the 31st, you'll receive free daily recordings delivered straight to your inbox so you can watch on your own schedule. And the goal isn't to give you another plan to follow. It's to help you finally understand why resolutions fail every year in a fun, gamified way, and what actually needs to change for sustainable progress to happen. You can register for free. I'll have the link waiting for you in the show notes. All right, I'm sending you so much love, and I'll see you in the next episode of PCOS Unfiltered. Nourish, Heal, Thrive.